Warm welcome to the Mumbai Center over here. And as I said, we are joined by some more centers across India as well as Nepal. So I would now request my colleague Dr. Rahul Joshi to come and take forward the proceedings. Please.
Welcome and good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Rahul Joshi, working as a medical manager in Medical Affairs Sanofi. It's really warming to see everybody on a Sunday evening here, and as well as on the 8 centers which we are connecting today in India, and one in Nepal and the other one in Sri Lanka, Colombo. So what I'll do is, there are chairpersons as well at this particular locations. I would just have a quick round of introduction so that they are on board with us over here. So a very warm welcome again to all the webcast centers, and hope you have a good evening today. From Aligarh, we are connected with Dr. S.C. Sharma and Professor Dr. Zubair Ahmed. From Chennai, we are connected with Dr. N. Suresh Kumar, who is an ENT surgeon. From Chhattarpur, we are connected with Dr. B.M. Chaurasia, who is an ENT surgeon, and Dr. M.K. Gupta, who is an internist. From Hyderabad, we are connected with Professor Dr. A.V.S. Hanumanta Rao, who is an ENT surgeon in the Gandhi Medical College. From Jamshedpur, we have Dr. A.K. Prusti, who is a pulmonologist, and Dr. K.P. Dubey, who is also an ENT surgeon. From Kanpur, we are connected with Dr. Ranjan Bhargav, who is an ENT surgeon. From Purnia, Bihar, we are connecting with Dr. Devi Ram and Dr. Ajay Kumar. One more center in Purnia, wherein the chairperson is Dr. B.K. Singh. In Trichy, we have Dr. A. Venugopal, the ENT surgeon, and Dr. B. Abdul Samad, who is a chest physician. In Trichy, there's another center, Dr. P. R. Ratnam, who is a pediatrician. And 2 international centers, Colombo, Sri Lanka, Kathmandu, Nepal. From Kathmandu, we are connected with Professor Dr. Bibhu Pradhan. She is an ENT surgeon, otorhinolaryngologist, president of Society of Otorhinolaryngologists in Nepal. And in Colombo, Dr. Chandimani Undugodage. She is a consultant chest physician. Welcome, Mumbai. I would now introduce and welcome our chairpersons here today. Dr. Ashok Mahashur. He is currently working as a consultant chest physician at the PD Hinduja National Hospital and Medical Research Center and visiting consultant at SAFI. He is the governor of American College of Chest Physicians, Western India. Dr. Mahashur has been trained in respiratory medicine and critical care at the City Hospital, Edinburgh, UK, and the Norwalk Hospital in US. The editor of Thorax India, Dr. Mahashur has authored and co-authored over 200 articles and serves as an editorial board of various prestigious international journals. He has delivered a number of orations and guest lectures both nationally and internationally. The former president of the Indian Chest Society, he is a fellow of Royal College of Physicians, Glasgow, American College of Chest Physicians, the Indian College of Physicians, and National College of Chest Physicians, India. He is the only Asian member in Global Respiratory Infection Program. Sir, we are honored to have you here today. Our next chairperson for tonight is Dr. Makarand Damle, who is an otorhinolaryngologist. Dr. Damle is consulting ENT and head neck surgeon from suburban Mumbai. He has, to his credit, various national publications. He is the immediate past president of Association of Otolaryngologists of India, Mumbai West Branch. He was the organizing secretary of International Rhinoplasty Conference held in JJ Hospital in 2015 and is the organizing secretary of this year's Maharashtra State ENT Conference, which is MENTCon 2017. He has been principal and has played indeed a pivotal role in setting up the skull base endoscopy surgery and the group in Karuna Hospital in Borivali in Mumbai. We are very glad and warmly welcome both of you here, sir. To welcome Professor Jean Bousky today, I would like to call upon Professor Dr. Mahashur to please come and introduce and welcome Professor Jean Bousky, and then we can have the delivery.
Thank you, Dr. Joshi, for the kind introduction. It's my honor and privilege to introduce the personality in the allergies and asthma, Professor Jean Bosque. He is a past chairman of the global initiative, that is GINA, for National Institute of Health, Bethesda. He has been NGO allergic rhinitis and its impact on asthma. He was a chairman, WHO Global Alliance Against Chronic Respiratory Diseases, and also a network coordinator and scientific coordinator between 2004 and 2009. He is currently the Professor Respiratory Medicine, University of Montpellier, France. As you can see, his main areas of interest are airways remodeling in asthma, relationship between asthma and rhinitis as comorbidities. Well, he has been a chairman of this GINA guideline formulation and also the ARIA guideline formulations. So today, he's going to tell us about the neo guidelines of ARIA, that is 2017, and also his vast experience in the field of allergy, allergic rhinitis, and bronchial asthma. Professor Bosque.
Thank you. Well, I think it's better go. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for being here on a Sunday evening, but also for all the people from the 10 different places across India, Sri Lanka, and Nepal. Well, today I would like to discuss with you ARIA. ARIA, it's allergic rhinitis and its impact on asthma. And I'm going to tell you that we need to change from guidelines, which are essential, of course, to integrated care pathways. Because in fact, very few physicians in India, in France, or elsewhere are using these guidelines in their daily practice. It's too complex. So we need to make them simpler. And I will propose an approach, which is an IT approach, which should be available in India very soon. I'm sorry it will be only in English at first, because translation will come later, because we have already the English version. And finally, I will go to future therapy or future management. Well, United Airway Disease, does it work? No, no problem. Yes. Well, it started like this. First of all, 200 years ago, this gentleman, John Bostock, discovered allergic rhinitis. And he described allergic rhinitis in his own body. And he said, every year in June, I have conjunctivitis, so ocular symptoms are the most bothersome, rhinitis, and asthma. So that's said. But when in 1999, I said to Claude L'Enfant, you know, Claude, GINA should also study rhinitis. He said to me, no. My institute is doing this. And I said, well, my patients are doing this. So there was a problem. And in fact, I started ARIA. Well, initially, I saw a patient, it was in 1989, and this patient had a terrible asthma, FEV1 50%. I gave oral steroids, inhaled steroids. A month later, the patient was at 100% of FEV1, but the patient was not satisfied. Why? Because she had rhinitis. So from then, I started to do epidemiologic studies, and this is one of them. This was in the 16,000 patients of the subjects of the Peter Bernays study, the European Community Respiratory Health Survey. And what is very clear, it is that, well, this is not, possibly it's not, yes, okay. So it's clear. If you have allergy, if you have no rhinitis, asthma 3%. If you are allergic, asthma 20%. But if you are non-allergic, asthma is 1% and 10%. So it is not only allergic rhinitis, which is associated with asthma, but rhinitis, it's not the Ig response which is inducing rhinitis, it is participating. And we found later that only 38% of the multimorbidity between asthma and rhinitis is due to allergy. We then did another study. It was what is the prevalence of asthma and rhinitis patients. This is the same study, but the other question. If you don't have rhinitis, 1%. If you have seasonal rhinitis, 5%. If you have perennial rhinitis, 10%. But if you have seasonal plus perennial allergy, the persistent disease, it is up to 16%. So this is the phenotype with the most frequent asthma. And there have been other studies. I'm going to show you two others. One is a study by Stefano Guerra. It is the severity of rhinitis which is associated with asthma. So there are two messages today, the multimorbidity and the severity. And then there is another study by Professor David Price. He found that asthmatics without rhinitis have fewer hospitalizations than asthmatics with rhinitis. So the multimorbidity is associated with the persistence of the disease, the severity of the disease. And I think that this is important in your practice. I said yes, but I also say but. And I'm going to show you why but. First of all, we have developed a system which is an IT system, and you put your finger from not at all bothersome to extremely bothersome on overall how much are your allergic symptoms bothering you today, your nasal symptoms, your ocular symptoms, and asthma. And what we found in 42,000 days, so it's not a very simple, we found a fabulous correlation between rhinitis and the global symptoms of allergy rhinitis, including conjunctivitis and asthma. So we know that we have a very powerful tool. The next question was, what are the symptoms of allergic rhinitis, and do they differ according to the severity of the disease? If you have no global symptoms, you have very few asthma, eye, or work symptoms. If you have mild symptoms, you immediately have some rhinitis and some work impairment. This is very important because we are moving from quality of life, the governments do not care, to work impairment. Governments care. This is quite important. And then you see that this is conjunctivitis and this is asthma. When you have days with very severe rhinitis, you almost always have conjunctivitis, very often asthma, except for the most severe, because then you have a specific phenotype, which is rhinitis without asthma. Now, what is the severity? The severity is about the same for all diseases. So when you have patients with severe disease, they have asthma, they have rhinitis, they have conjunctivitis, and they are severe. So I think that this tells you that with a very simple system, you can get a lot. This slide tells us why rhinitis and asthma differ. Because in fact, the nose is from the embryologic origin of ectoderm, and the lower airways are from the endoderm. So, multimorbidity is clear. It is the mesoderm and the T2 response. But remodeling is specific to the endoderm and does not exist or very little in the ectoderm. This is why there is no remodeling of the nose in rhinitis. So we need to go to the very early origin of the babies to understand allergic rhinitis and asthma. Now I'm going to discuss with you the story of ARIA from its inception to now. Well, the ARIA initiative was developed as a state-of-the-art for the specialist, the general practitioner, and the healthcare professional, to update knowledge of allergic rhinitis, to highlight the impact of allergic rhinitis on asthma. Now everyone agrees on that. But 20 years ago, very few people. You remember when you were a chest physician 20 years ago? You were interested in rhinitis? No. And now you are, because we have made some noise and some buzz, as we would say today, to provide an evidence-based revision on diagnostic and treatment, and to propose a stepwise approach for the management of the disease, but also to assess the magnitude of the problem in developing countries. Because 20 years ago, rhinitis was not a problem in India. It existed, but it was not a problem. So with the International Union Against Tuberculosis and Lung Disease, we made 25 pages on how to handle rhinitis in developing countries and to increase the awareness of rhinitis in developing countries. So this was the first guideline on a multimorbid disease, and this was the first guideline in developing countries. This has been published in the Best Journal of Allergy. Interestingly, we have 52 languages for the pocket guide. So it's distributed across the world. And now it is in 73 countries because it will be in India from today. And we had an update. But what we did something which is more important. We used a new evidence-based system, which is called GRADE, which includes the quality of the evidence, but also efficacy, safety, cost, and the patient's preference. And here, this has been done by Holger Schoenemann from McMaster University in Canada. You have a supplement of 560 pages, not because I want you to read that, but if you have a question on our statement, you can go to this supplement and you can assess why we did this assessment. Well, I'm going to give you 3 examples. The first one is, should oral H1 antihistamines be used for the treatment of allergic rhinitis? Well, we said recommend and suggest. We recommend the drugs that do not cause sedation and do not interact with cytochrome P450. We suggest drugs that cause some sedation and or interact with cytochrome P450. Is this important? Cytochrome P450, yes, because there are many drugs which are going through this hepatic metabolism. And sedation. Well, we did a study, and this was the landmark study of fexofenadine in Europe, and we found that fexofenadine 120, 180, and cetirizine 10 were not that much different in terms of efficacy. However, in terms of safety, there was a significant increase in sedation due to cetirizine than to fexofenadine either dose. So it is clear that the ARIA guidelines are supported by evidence and that sedation is a major problem. The second guideline I'm going to discuss is all generation oral H1 blockers. Well, we should not use them because, first of all, there is tachyphylaxis, yes. Secondly, they cause sedation. They cause urinary tract problems, and they may cause dryness of the secretions in asthma. So we should not use them. Finally, intranasal glucocorticosteroids. Well, for the pediatricians, there are differences between intranasal glucocorticosteroids in adults and in children. In children, it was found that they are less effective. Why? Either because they are less effective or because the randomized controlled trials used the same patient-reported outcomes as in adults. And also because in some studies, the parents quoted the data. And we have found that when parents are reporting data, they are much poorer than when children are reporting data. So the guidelines reflect the quality of the evidence, and they might not be totally true, because in fact, it is possibly because it is a problem of methodology of clinical trials. This guideline has been approved by government. This is Singapore, this is Brazil. We have about 15 governments. And we have now the new rhinitis, the new revision. I'm not going to discuss it with you today because I think it's going a bit beyond our current practice. And also, the great approach is better targeted when you compare a placebo with a drug than when you compare two drugs. So I'm not going to discuss them today. We can discuss them during the discussion. Now, ARIA is in Belgium, close to the EU. Why in Belgium? Because Larry Grouse was the person who was handling ARIA in the US, suddenly died, and we had to do something, but it's now in Belgium. Now, from guidelines to integrated care pathways. Well, guidelines in the doctor's office are at this height, next year there, and then I will not be able to reach them. So you have 1,000 pages for guidelines for everything, and when the GP sees a patient, he's always going to check the guideline for rhinitis and check. Well, how many doctors use guidelines in India in general practice? 0.5%? 1% possibly. Okay? So we need to bring something different. We need to bring an integrated care pathway. And an integrated care pathway is different from a guideline. Well, first of all, ARIA is not any longer a guideline. It is a care pathway implementing emerging technologies for predictive medicine in rhinitis and asthma across the life cycle. So it completely changed. Well, this title is much longer than the system we are using. But it is absolutely true that care pathways, emerging technologies, predictive medicine, multimorbidity across the life cycle. And we could have added with real-world data. So you have all the keywords that will be the next medicine. This is a project from the European Union and WHO. So it is a GARD demonstration project, and it is a project of 3 different directorates of the EU. So it is not something that we went from the loop, from nothing, and here you have 350 authors, including 2 Ministries of Health. As I told you, it is part of the European Innovation Partnership on Active and Healthy Aging of the European Union, and it is one of the success stories. This is a key slide. Most patients with rhinitis self-medicate because they have something in their shelf and they take whatever they want. And they're increasing the treatment when they are not well. So we need to do something there, and we're trying to do it. In Europe, they go to the pharmacist because the pharmacist can be found at the corner of the street and that can give medications. In this country, I know that the pharmacist has less of an effect. But you know, this guideline is global. And then they go to the primary care physician, and then they go to the specialist, and they may lead to emergency care for asthma. So these are the links that we need to use in order to assess rhinitis and to check for asthma. And this is what we have done with the cell phone strategy I'm going to discuss later. Now, what is the algorithm for the treatment of allergic rhinitis? Well, it has changed since last year, and it is fully digitalized in France. So you can do that with a tablet, not yet in India. So what we think that there are 2 different situations. Those patients who are untreated and those patients who are treated. When I see a patient, always treated, probably as well for you. No? Some patients are not treated? So the situation in India differs from France, which is normal, because we don't see the same patients, and we don't have the same health system. So we published a paper with Holger Schoenemann and with many other people in the JCI last year. Well, we said, what is the cutoff for the treatment of rhinitis? It is simply a visual analog scale. If in your visual analog scale you are less than 5, you are moderate. If you are over 5, you are severe. And so you have any treatment if you are less than 5. You have more often either any treatment or intranasal corticosteroids if you have over 5. But here you have a new treatment that we do not have in Europe. It is montelukast plus fexofenadine. And I think that this is a very clever association. So if you are less than 5, well, usually you give any treatment and you reassess daily up to 3 days. Well, I can tell you something. We have analyzed 3,000 patients, and they change their treatment daily. So no one follows guidelines, and they change their treatment according to their symptoms. So probably this is too long. And if the patient continues to have a low VAS, then either you decrease the treatment or the patients stop by themselves. If you are over 5, then you step up, and importantly, you consider sending the patient to an ENT doctor because there may be things which are different than allergic rhinitis. And then you consider specific immunotherapy. Now, if you are treated, it differs because a patient with treatment, if you have a VAS less than 5, then you consider if it is intermittent or persistent, and usually, if it is intermittent, you reduce your treatment. If it is persistent, you maintain the treatment because you may have a flare-up, as we discussed before. And again, with VIS, you can assess the treatment. And now we can assess it with an electronic system I will show you later. If you are over 5, then you need to step up, and then you need intranasal corticosteroids. This is what we discussed also. So we need intranasal corticosteroids in this case. And if the patient is not well, then you again consider to go to the ENT doctor and to do allergen immunotherapy. So you see, ARIA guidelines have evolved from a simple guideline to something which is easier for the doctor. And I will come next year with a simplified scheme because we have tested this with an electronic system and we're going to simplify it. Now I'm going to show you data from India. Well, I was interested to see that there is a combination between montelukast and fexofenadine. It's a fixed dose combination, and it has been shown to be more effective than the combination between montelukast and levocetirizine. Interestingly, this study from 2013 has been reproduced in 2016, very recently, and again, there is a highly significant difference between the two medications. So, in India, you are lucky to have a drug that we don't have in France. Well, now I'm going to show this helicopter because it is the only helicopter in the world which is able to do a looping. And it can do a looping because there is a decision system, an electronic decision system. It is not the pilot who can do the looping. It is the decision system. And it is the same company who has made this decision system for the helicopter who did the clinical decision system for ARIA. Now, immunotherapy. Well, immunotherapy, I know that in India you don't have sublingual immunotherapy. I'm sorry I didn't know that when I came. I learned that here. And you have only subcutaneous immunotherapy. So, unfortunately, subcutaneous immunotherapy has been less well tested than sublingual immunotherapy. Thank you. So, this is a study with an allergen from France assessing the efficacy of immunotherapy in grass pollen allergy. And you see that there is a big difference between placebo and low dose and high dose and maximum dose. This is a study with a Danish product, and you find the same difference with ragweed pollen. So FDA and EMA have approved sublingual immunotherapy for grass and ragweed pollen. Now you are going to tell me, well, pollen is not a major problem in India. The major problem is mite. This is the study in mice, and you see that there is a big difference between the placebo group and the 2 doses of allergen. And this is why EMA, FDA, but also the Japanese regulatory authorities have approved the mite extract for sublingual immunotherapy. And what is very interesting, it is that here, it's exactly what ARIA is saying. Persistent, moderate to severe house dust mite allergic rhinitis. This is exactly ARIA. Despite the use of symptom relieving medication. This is ARIA 2008. And in allergic asthma with mild to severe house dust mite allergic rhinitis. So this is the full indication of ARIA, and it is the European Medicines Agency. So I think it is rewarding for us to see that the Medicines Agency used exactly our wording to accept a drug. I'm going to finish in 5 minutes by future therapies or future management. Well, I'm going to ask you the question. Well, so sorry, first of all, this is another EU project. So first of all, do you think that endophenotyping network of complex diseases and the whole genome sequencing process is the future of medicine? Yes. But is it the future next year or in 10 years? 10 years. So we need to do something. So we tested this in a big EU project, but this is the approach I'm proposing. A finger, a visionary scale, and a computer. Simple, no? Well, first of all, we go to this, and there is a cell phone for the patient, a tablet for the physician and the pharmacist. Secondly, this is one of the key successes of this. Well, a patient in 3 clicks can go from the cell phone to the computer and print the data. This is the control. These are the medications. So he can or she can send this as a PDF to the doctor, or can go to the doctor and show what are the symptoms. And I think that for rhinosinusitis, this will be very helpful because it will help you to decide whether you do surgery or not. Because the rhinosinusitis app is ready now. So this is very important for patient compliance. We are in 21 countries. We have already 12,000 users. And I'm going to show you an example. Well, you see, we are adding the symptoms, and here, affect my sleep, restrict my daily activities, restrict my participation in school or work, and are troublesome. So if you take only these 4 items, can you make a differentiation between no troublesome and troublesome? If it is not troublesome, then you have lower levels of work and school productivity, of daily activities, and of sleep than here. If you have nasal obstruction, it is the same. But for ocular symptoms, you have severe ocular symptoms already when they are mild and when they are severe. So this very simple approach can tell you a lot of things. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. When you have rhinitis, the patient is without treatment, the patient is with single treatment, the patient is with multiple treatment. Which is the best controlled? No treatment? So vote. Who is voting for no treatment? You? No one? Who is voting for single treatment? Okay. Who is voting for multiple treatment? And you don't vote? Okay. Now, 17,000 days. Well, when you have no treatment, it's better than with a single treatment. These are 3 intranasal corticosteroids, and these are 3 H1 blockers. So when you have multiple treatment, you are worse. Why? Because probably it's a different phenotype. And for asthma, it is the same. So we have the phenotype of severity, which is in fact an intrinsic phenotype. And it is because you have this intrinsic phenotype that patients take more drugs. So this is against the guidelines. The guidelines are you treat more to get better control. And in fact, and it is clear that it is for every drug available. So when you see this, and it is highly significant. So I think that this type of system told me many things I didn't know in rhinitis. And for asthma, it is the same. And in asthma, people are assessing the control. They're assessing the control in patients who take 2 medications. Then the control is going to be worse than if you take 1. So I think we need to revise the guidelines in the light of what patients are doing and what patients are having. So you see that the ARIA guidelines have gone from a strategy of guideline to real day-to-day practice with the patient. And it is very important to know what patients are doing and what they are feeling and what they are suffering from. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It has been a pleasure to discuss with you today.
Insightful lecture, taking us through the history of ARIA, its evolution over the years, the latest updates, from ARIA to the integrated care pathways, and of course, how to use technology to manage allergic rhinitis better. I'm sure doctors here and across the centers in Sri Lanka, India, and Nepal have multiple questions for Professor Buski. While we collect them, I request your kind attention for a small commercial that we want to share with you. A commercial that will allow us to share a breaking news with you, something that we at Sanofi are very proud and honored of.
Hello and welcome to the Health Hour. This is your host Bharti Kumaria, bringing you the latest updates from the health world. To begin with, the newest buzz in the market is GST. From 1st of July, GST has affected various sectors in different ways, but we turn our spotlight on the health sector. It is expected that GST would have a constructive effect on the pharma sector. There are hopes to witness a promising development in healthcare. Moving on, monsoon has set in India. Torrential downpour, particularly over Mumbai, Delhi and parts of Gujarat, has affected the cities along with its people. And with the rain and increasing pollution, allergy season has set in. Rain boosts allergens like pollen and mold, causing runny noses, thus triggering the condition of allergic rhinitis. Ignoring symptoms like sneezing, nasal itching and obstruction can impact quality of life and hamper day-to-day activities. We interrupt this bulletin with the breaking news. Reports have just come in that pharmaceutical giant Sanofi has crossed yet another milestone. For the very first time, Sanofi's hugely popular anti-allergy brand Allegra M has been endorsed for its quality and innovation, and the reports are published in the renowned Indian Journal of Pharmaceutical Sciences. Allegra M, the #1 fexofenadine montelukast drug, is used to treat persistent allergic rhinitis. The published reports talk about the bioequivalence of this combination. Over the years, Sanofi constantly innovated and improved upon Allegra and developed Allegra M in 2013, the first ever bioequivalent bilayer tablet. This publication is a testimony to this remarkable feat. The Indian Journal of Pharmaceutical Sciences has recognized this very innovative spirit. And for more on this breaking news, let's have someone from the house of Sanofi who has developed this formulation of Allegra M, Dr. Praveen Kullar from Goa Development Center. Dr. Kullar, welcome to our show and congratulations. How do you feel on Allegra M's endorsement in Indian Journal of Pharmaceutical Sciences?
I am extremely delighted for such an endorsement and high quality results done at a CRO approved by US FDA, and we got a perfect matching with the individual reference product.
Can you tell us more about Allegra M's manufacturing process and how you were successful in developing such innovative and high quality standard formulation?
Allegra is developed by innovative team using a very innovative granulation process. Fexofenadine granulation is done in an inert gas atmosphere. Montelukast granulation is done in a very selective light conditions. Innovative bilayer technology is used to get the most stabilized formulation.
Dr. Kullar, please share your insights on how Allegra M is better compared to other molecules in the market.
Allegra has got perfect dissolution mapping compared to the reference. Allegra also has a low sulfur oxide content as compared to the other brands.
So can you tell us your mantra on commitment towards quality?
We manufacture Allegra M in a EU GMP facilities using a very strict in-process controls and also validated processes. All the raw materials come from a highly qualified vendors, and the goodness of two reference products in one is going to give enhanced patient compliance.
Thank you, Dr. Kullar, for taking the time out to tell us more about Allegra M. Also, I would like to congratulate the Sanofi team on this wonderful achievement. So be rest assured, as now if it's about quality and innovation, the answer is Allegra M. On this note, this is Bharti Kumaria signing off. Stay happy, stay healthy, and remember, when you think of trusted anti-allergy drug, think Allegra.
Doctors, we at Sanofi are proud and honored to have received this endorsement on innovation and quality. I would now request Professor Buski and our chairpersons to kindly have the unveiling done for the innovation.
It didn't work.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
Come on, come on. We need a photo. Thank you.
I now hand over the session for the Q&A round.
Please come on, come on. Well, if you have any other question, we'll be delighted to answer.
Thank you, Akash. We already had first round of question answers and discussions about the therapeutics, about the pharmacology of the drugs, about the various phenotypes. What we'll do now is we'll take some questions from the webcast centers, and in the meanwhile, the newly joined audience who have any questions, either they can write it and give it to me, or the mics are circulating around. You can directly ask questions to our panelist. There's one question from Dr. B.M. Chaurasia, who's asking, is submucosal diathermy in allergic rhinitis justifiable?
The?
Submucosal diathermy.
I don't know what it is.
Okay, maybe, sir.
If I may answer that question. Submucosal diathermy of the inferior turbinate usually helps to relieve only symptoms of nasal blockage. It does not modify the disease per se. So if you have a person whose allergic rhinitis is well controlled with medication, but the symptoms of persistent blockage are not getting reduced, only then is it worth considering.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm not an ENT doctor. So the question was for you.
This is one question. Are intranasal corticosteroids safe in children? If yes, then in which age group?
Mometazone can be given in France at 2 years of age. I think it is the same in your country.
Yeah. Yes.
They are safe, but the children hate them. Try to put a puff in the nose to a child at 2 years of age. It will be more a corrida than anything else.
Is there any effect of submucosal injection of corticosteroid in the turbinates?
Don't do it.
You've said it right. Usually doesn't help, and there are only anecdotal reports which say that it helps, but there is no scientific evidence for this.
And safety.
Safety is a big issue.
Ocular problems.
Ocular problems, vasovagal attacks, and there have been fatalities during injection of simple hydrocortisone. So
Yes.
probably best avoided.
Best avoided. Right. This one question which is already answered in pediatrics: what is preferable, mometasone or fluticasone? So, sir rightly
Well,
said.
mometazone and fluticasone are more potent than budesonide and BDP. In asthma, fluticasone high dose is not very safe. And in children, there is a problem with fluticasone high dose, even in adults. Mometazone is safer. Is it because it is a molecule or it is the administration? I don't know. But, for example, the smart approach, giving multiple doses of inhaled steroids, could not be done with fluticasone. It could be done with budesonide and BDP.
Right. Dr. S.C. Sharma from Aligarh wants to know that is there any precipitation of symptoms of nasal allergy or bronchial allergy by an anti-allergic drug?
I have personally had a few patients in which administration of levocetirizine has somehow triggered allergic rhinitis. My thought was probably the excipients used or the coloring agents used could be a cause, because I don't see any reason why an antihistamine should precipitate allergic rhinitis. But again, just a one-off case here and there, nothing concrete.
No. Well, in fact, there were problems in the US of asthma and drying secretions. But these were with only one of the first generation H1 blocker. There is no problem now.
Dr. Ajay Kumar from Purnia wants to know that does fexofenadine scores over other antihistaminic second generation in airway remodeling?
Well, not a single drug is acting on airway remodeling, whether inhaled or intranasal.
Okay.
No, well, if you want to act on airway remodeling, you need a dose of budesonide, which is 1,600 micrograms a day, which is an unsafe drug. This is the paper by Sant published in 1999 in the Blue Journal.
Okay. Are there any questions from our physical center here? Yes. Can we have the mic?
Microphone.
Is intranasal azilradine as safe as inhaled corticosteroids? And are intranasal...
Which one? Azelastine?
Yeah, azilastine.
Yes, it is very safe.
And what about intranasal steroids? Are they as safe as inhaled corticosteroids have proved to be?
Well, there are 3 studies of 1-year treatment. I was the lead author of one of them. One was with fluticasone, with mometazone, and with triamcinolone. And we found that after 1 year of regular treatment, the nasal mucosa was much better than before. So they are protecting the nasal mucosa.
Other thing is, can Allegra M be continued lifelong?
Yes. Well, at least 2 years. But as I told you before, yes, you can do it. You know, you give it lifelong, but people take it 150 or 200 days a year.
So the question in pediatric, levocetirizine versus fexofenadine. And there is a market in India which is flooded with levocetirizine monocular combination. Unfortunately, in pediatric age group, we don't have any fexofenadine monoclonal combination in India, especially for smaller children. It's only available in the form of tablet. So what is your take on this?
Well, I think that you can do a tablet, but you may not be able to do a suspension, because the tablet has been very nicely designed to be an additive, but I don't think that you can do it as well. I'm also a pharmacist, so I know a bit how drugs are made. I don't think that you can do it well, you can give two syrups, one fexofenadine, one montelukast, but you cannot make the two together without a very significant amount of work, so I don't think this will ever happen.
Any head-on trial between levocetirizine and fexofenadine? Any head-on trials between levocetirizine and fexofenadine? Which is better, especially in a pediatric age group?
Okay, no, the only two studies I showed you are in adults, not in.
That was for cetirizine. I'm asking about levocetirizine and fexofenadine.
Well, no, unfortunately, there are no comparative studies because not a single company wants to compare two drugs. Well, we will be able, I tell you, there are differences between desloratadine and cetirizine. And we showed this with our system. So we'll be able to show differences, but a drug company will never do it.
Sir, in any way, does intranasal corticosteroid help in preventing wheezing in patients who are having these episodes only during peak seasons?
Well, this is an interesting question. If you go to the randomized control trials performed by, in particular, GSK, they didn't find anything, probably because they didn't take the right population. Now, if you go to the study of Paulo Camargos and Stelmark in Brazil, they found that, in fact, intranasal corticosteroids are improving asthma. So I don't know exactly what is the answer, because the study performed by GSK, to me, were not in the right patients and not with the right PROs. Well, you know that when you have done the study, and we have spent several million euros. But I think that the studies of Camargos are quite interesting.
Does it work through blockage of the cascade, the immunological cascade, which may be getting triggered from the nasal route or something?
Yes, but this is, well, there are differences between the theory and the practice. So GSK, mainly because this was a major study, attempted in seasonal rhinitis to find a difference, and they based on FEV1, but FEV1 doesn't change in seasonal rhinitis. And we knew that after the study had been completed, because in the placebo group there was nothing. So, in fact, we didn't have that.
So is it worthwhile to use inhaled intranasal steroid during peak season just to prevent the episodes of wheezing in patients who are having only these episodes during that particular season?
No, in patients who are wheezing, you give an asthma treatment.
Both together, you mean?
Yes. You agree?
Yeah, I agree, because the dosage won't be adequate. It just has an effect which may be additive, but not a therapeutic.
Yes, I would agree.
Blockage of the immunological,
no, but
nothing of that is proven.
Not with that dose. Right. I have a question now. Is oral antihistaminic better, or the intranasal antihistaminic is better?
Very interesting comment. Well, we in ARIA 2010 made the comparison. I think that intranasal antihistamines are acting fast, very fast, 5 minutes. And probably oral H1 blockers act within 10 to 15 minutes. But the magnitude of the effect appears to be the same.
So is it wiser to combine the two?
Yes, because there is a product, which is Indian, by the way, and it's an Indian product which has been marketed across the world, which is Dimista in France and in Europe, and it is a combination between azelastine and fluticasone propionate. And this product is more effective than intranasal corticosteroids, and it is acting at 5 minutes. Well, I can tell you because I am the first author of the paper which will be submitted next week. Thank you.
So, difference between fexofenadine 120 and 180 for control of allergic rhinitis.
I'm sorry, but I have an echo here and I have difficulties to hear.
So, difference between fexofenadine 120 milligram and 180 milligrams for allergic rhinitis.
Well, for urticaria it's 180, for rhinitis it's 120. What is the difference? I don't know. Well, when we did the study, it was found that 180 is slightly more effective.
So one of your slides also
Yes.
showed a better effect with 180
Yes.
because
Slightly
now we
more
have
effective, yes.
combinations in India where
Yes.
fexofenadine with montelukast are available in 2 strengths.
Yes.
10 milligram montelukast, but fexofenadine can be 120 and 180.
Yes, no, it was cetirizine 10 milligrams in this slide, yes. But you know, the product is approved in this country, it's also 120 for rhinitis.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, because, you know, there may be differences between countries. So in Europe, in the US and in this country, it's 120. You know, there is not much of a difference between 120 and 180.
Then is fexofenadine 60 milligram twice a day equivalent to 120 OD? Because now we have combinations where fexofenadine with added with a decongestant and paracetamol is available as a twice daily dose and is marketed it may be a marketing gimmick.
It has been shown that fexofenadine has a duration of 24 hours. So I don't see why you need 2 tablets instead of 1.
Okay.
So, treating early allergic rhinitis with fexofenadine, does it really prevent the allergic march from rhinitis to asthma in future?
No. There is no data on that.
Is the metabolism of fexofenadine different in children compared to adults? So do we recommend a BD dosage in children? And do we recommend a once a day dosage in adults?
I don't think I've seen data on that because the pharmacokinetics have been studied by Estelle Simons, but they've been studied with once a day and not with twice a day. So I'm sorry to say that there may be studies because, you know, there are millions of studies in PubMed, so I cannot know everyone. But to my knowledge, there is no study on that. But it may be.
I would like to mention some point here. The BD dosage with the 30 milligram, we have a 30 milligram formulation as well. So the effect typically lasts, the pharmacokinetic profile says that the effect typically lasts for 12 hours. So you may consider 30 mg twice or maybe 60 in the kids.
So is it because difference in metabolism or just
No, which is not the case. But then in the liver, because it doesn't pass through CYP 450.
No. But in severe dermatitis,
right, sir.
they prescribe 120 milligrams twice a day. So
Because they
I
double
think
the dose.
Up to 4 times a day, in
So-
fact.
That's right. So the dose can be doubled. That's what I'm saying. So 30 twice, you can give. Even 120 twice also you can give.
We can. There's no.
Yes. So where does cromolyn sodium stand today with regards to intranasal steroids and intranasal antihistaminics?
Sorry.
Cromolyn sodium. Where does cromolyn sodium stand when we have intranasal steroids and intranasal antihistaminics? So what's the role of cromolyn sodium, especially in pediatric age group?
Cromolyn. Oh, cromolyn. Well, cromolyn is not any longer marketed in France for the nose. It was a very weak drug. It's good for the eyes, but not very good for the nose.
Nose. There's one question from the webcast center. What they want to establish is, which is a concept actually. It is known for a fact that most of the drugs we use as receptor competitors of the end product histamine. But how can we stop the chemical cascade of allergy apart from steroids and montelukast? What are the new development regarding it?
But as I told you, there is no drug development in rhinitis for a very simple reason: the cost of the drug. You know, in France and in India, the cost of H1 blockers is very low. So no company wants to take the risk to invest in new drugs because they will not have a return. So we have very good drugs now. Most of the patients can be controlled, and there is no big development in drug allergy.
Okay. What is the role of thromboxane A2 inhibitors in allergic rhinitis?
Of what?
Thromboxane A2.
Well, I don't know.
Role of omalizumab?
In rhinitis, as I said before, omalizumab in France cannot be prescribed because of the cost. So if in India there is a patient who has the money to do it, yes, you can. But that's it.
Efficacy-wise, where?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any age limit for skin prick test and immunotherapy? If it is so, what is the age limit?
Sorry, I have a flight to take. So
right. Maybe we can take a couple
this
of
question
questions.
is the last
yeah.
one, because
Okay.
I would not like to miss my flight tonight.
Okay. I would repeat the question. Is there any age limit for skin prick test and immunotherapy? Age limit. And if it is there, what is it?
Well, usually you do that at 5 years of age because sensitization change, and also because it's not very easy to give subcutaneous injections to children, young children. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thanks a lot, dear panelists and Professor Buski, for answering almost all the questions.
Sorry, but you were supposed to take it.
I would like to call upon
Thank you.
Mr. Arora to have a vote of thanks.
Thanks, Doc. I'm sure you would have seen that there's a pressure of the flight timings. It's not the pressure of the questions for sure. So once again, on behalf of Sanofi, I want to thank each one of you present here, sparing your very valuable time being a Sunday. And I want to thank all the participants at the centers which are covered from here. Thanks to each of you who are coming here. And I think on behalf of all of you, I think a very big round of applause with a very, very warm welcome of Professor Buski. I think it's been marathonic, the 5th meeting out here. So we are privileged to have you here, an authority like you. Thank you very much, and we'll await you that you come again and again and guide us. Sure. And of course, to have chairpersons like Dr. Mahashur and Dr. Damle. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your presence and the question and answer session. So thank you once again. And I want to say one thing, as I have said it every time, Sanofi, it's our endeavor, sharing and learning at every platform. And I think who could have been better than Professor Buski to be here and guiding us on ARIA guidelines. So thank you very, very much. Thank you once again. And we invite you for the dinner because Sir has to catch the flight. And we want him to go healthy, happy, and be there on time. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Please join us for dinner.